Happy Tuesday night. Well, tonight we're going to be looking at we're visiting back with our friends, the percents, and we're going to be talking about percent increase and decrease. So not wasting your time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. So last week we talked about percent change. So we talked about percent change, and we talked about how if there's an old value and a new value, you can figure out what the percent change was by using this formula, the change divided by the original, and then converting that decimal into a percent. So percent change. This today is similar. Instead of percent change, it's going to be a percent increase and decrease. So let me tell you the formula. The formula is the same for increase and decrease, and it is this: percent increase or decrease. Guess what? Not a new formula. Same one. Okay? It's the difference, just the same as the change. The difference in the two values divided by, what do you think it might be? Think about the formula we used for percent change. What was on the bottom? Yep. Original. Alright? So it's the difference divided by the original. So percent increase, I'm going to abbreviate this with the percent sign. Percent increase describes how much a quantity increases in comparison to the original. Actually, I probably should have done that in blue, right? Because that's original amount. Okay? So let's do an example. And remember, if at any time you need to stop this to catch up on copying the notes, please stop it. Don't just keep going and get behind because you're listening to me while you're trying to write and you're not really thinking about what you're writing. Okay? Here's an example. Amber got a raise, and her new hourly wage increased from $8 to $9.50. What is the percent increase? So what is the percent increase? Well, let's look at this word problem. Her new hourly wage increased from $8. So this is what we're going to be using to find our difference. $8 to $9.50. These are our two values that will help us to find the difference. And the original amount was her first amount, the $8. Okay? So we're trying to figure out percent increase. So let's set up our formula. We know our formula says it's the difference divided by the original. So let's plug those numbers in. When we say difference, that should be a keyword for which operation? Not addition, but subtraction. So we have to take the difference between the old and the new, or these two numbers anyways. It could go down in a little bit when we do decrease, but you take the higher one and subtract the lower one. So we're going to say 950 minus 8 over the original. The original was 8. So just going to simplify this a little bit. 950 minus 8 leaves us with 150, and we still have just 8 on the bottom. So now we have a division problem. We have 150 divided by 8. Okay, so, or 1.5 divided by 8, excuse me. 1.5 divided by 8. Not that. So we say, we put our decimal up here and we say, how many times will 8 go into 15? 2 times. 1 time. 1 time. 1 times 8 is 8, and it leaves you with 7 left over. 8 will go into 70 8 times. 8 times 8 is 64. That leaves us with 6 left over. I'm going to add a 0. How many times will 8 go into 60? 7 times. 7 times. So now we have 187 on the top. 8 times 7 is 56. Now we have 4 left over. Bring down another 0. Okay, 8 goes into 40. Whew, finally found an N. 5 times. Okay. So we're left with 0.81875. That's our decimal. This needs to go into a percent. Okay? What we're really doing when we put it into percent is we're multiplying it by 100 because there's 100% points in a percent. It's the most you can have. So when we multiply anything by 10, we move the decimal a tens place. When we multiply it by 100, we move it 2 places. So we're going to move the decimal over 2 places. And now move decimal 2 places to the right to go from decimal to percent. And now we have 18.75%. This is your answer. Because we just did this division, 1.5 divided by 8, and then we put it into percent. Her wages increased by 18.75%. Okay, now let's look on the other side of things. The percent decrease. Percent decrease. Before we go to percent decrease, I want to show you something else that kind of goes with percent increase. It's called markups. So calculating markups. When something is marked up in price, that means it is an increase in price. So this is why it's kind of like a relative of percent increase. A markup is an increase. What would you think we would call the decrease part of markup? Yes, mark down. Okay, so markup is a kind of percent increase. So when you calculate markups, let me show you an example. Okay, you have skateboards. Are X dollars. What is retail price for skateboards bought for $35 and $56 after 42% markup. Okay, see, this is where we're taking a price that we already know and we're using this percentage to mark up the price. So let's think you're a manager of a skateboard store and you're trying to figure out how much should you charge for the skateboards how much did you sell them for? You have to make a profit. Well, we get them you can get them for retail because you're a manager. You get them at cost for $35. There's two kinds. There's one that's $35 and one that's $56. Well, what would their cost be if you were to mark up the price 42% so that you could make a 42% profit? What would you sell them at? So we're going to come up with two values. So the way we're going to do that is we have to think of our formula. This is our original. The X here is your original amount. That's what we're going to use as the original. And then we just have to put 42% in back into a decimal. Okay? So our formula we could use for this would be 0.42x, 42% times the amount we're trying to figure out what it is. Okay. Point 0.42% times x. That's what we're really trying to figure out. So let's see what would happen when we want to solve this. What we do here is we're just multiplying 0.42 times the two amounts that we have. Those are the original amounts that we have. 35 on one. So the first one would be 0.42 times, or I'm going to use the dot, times 35, and that would give us the new price. And then 0.42 times the other new price, and that would give us our the larger skateboard's price, and that would give us our other new price. Okay, so you could do this math on the side just to save us some time in our notes here. I'm going to use a calculator. Okay, you're going to need, I forgot one step. You're going to need to put a 1 in front of this because you're trying to get the amount, the 100% of the value that you paid plus 42%. So it's actually 1.42%. I mean, yeah, 1.42%. You're marking it up. You don't want to just mark it up to 42% because that would just give you like $14 on this one. That's 42% of 35 is $14. So we got to have the whole 1.42. Okay, so we're going to do 1.42 times 35. 1.42 times 35 gives us our new price, which is going to be 49.7. Our new price should be 49.70. This is a 42% markup. Okay, this is how businesses calculate their prices. They know the percentage they need to mark up their prices to get a profit, and that's how they get a price. So let's do it down here on this one. The larger skateboard costs us $56 to buy at retail. We want to figure out what it would be with a 42% increase, so we have to multiply it by 1.42. So that's saying 56 plus 42%. Okay, and that's going to give us a new price of $79.52. So it's really important that we not forget that 1 point and then whatever that decimal was from the percent. So if I had said this was a 57% markup, what would you multiply your original amounts by? You would multiply them by 1.57. Okay? So let's now talk about percent decrease. Guess what? We're not going to reinvent the wheel here. It is just about the same. Percent decrease. Percent decrease describes how much a quantity, guess what? Decreases in comparison to the original amount. Okay, so those decrease is the same thing we just wrote for increase, except for now it just says decrease instead of increase. And do you think it's going to be the same formula? Yep. Difference, the difference in the two values, difference. Apparently I'm adding more letters. Divided by the original. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using here, is the difference over the original. So if you're moving from a house that is 89 places away, like from your school, far, I don't know why you would do that, but it's 89 miles away from your school to a house that is 51 miles away from your school, what would be our percent decrease from the distance from those two moves? Well, let's talk about this. The first house was 89 miles away. The second house is only 51 miles away. So we just subtract those. And that's going to be over the original amount. The original amount was the higher amount, 89 miles. So 89 minus 51. 89 minus 51. Did you figure out what that is? Let's see here. 89 minus 51. Get that difference. It's 38. Okay, so we have 38 over 89. This is what we're working with here. Okay, that is this difference, 38, and then 89 was the original. So 38 divided by 89. Okay, 89 is not going to go into 38, so we're going to have to add a 0.0. 89 will go into 380 4 times. 4 times 89 is 356. I've already done this math, so I'm just going to help you along there. 380 minus 56 is going to give you 24. Okay? Well, 89 won't go into 24. We have to add another 0. It will go into 240. It will go in there. Sorry, this number is on the wrong side of the decimal. Okay, because it was 380. It will go in there 2 times. 2 times 89 is 178. And you're going to get a remainder of 62. Add another 0. And guess what? 89 will go into 620. It will go into that 6 times. Okay? So 0.426 is the amount you're going to get if you divide 38 divided by 89. Okay, 0.426. We're going to put that into a percent. So now we're going to have to do the decimal dance. Move it 2 spaces to the right. 42.6%. Okay, which we're going to just round up to 43%. And then the same when you have a markdown. A markdown, you're just going to follow the same rules as markup. Except for now, instead of back here when we did markup, okay, let me just tell you, mark down, the way you do mark down. Okay, so if it's a mark down, you would figure out, okay, so let's say Hobby Lobby is putting everything on sale. They're marking down their summer decorations because summer is now over. We're into fall. Well, they're trying to mark them down by 20%. Okay? They're doing a 20% markdown off the regular price. And the regular price of the decorations was $16. Okay, this wreath that maybe you saw that was pretty, it was $16 and they're marking it down 20%. This is your original amount. This is what they originally sold it for, and you're marking it down 20%. Okay? So you have to figure out how would you get the original amount? I mean the markdown price. Well, you have to take the original, okay, and you have to multiply it by, the percent that you're decreasing it by. So you're going to multiply it by 20%, which is 0.20, and that's going to give you a number. That's the discount. That's not the full discounted price. So let's figure out what that would be. We have 16 times 0.20. That's going to give us $3.20. That's the markdown. That's the discount you're going to get off of the 16. So now it's just a simple subtraction. 16 minus $3. $16 minus $3.20. Okay? And when you do that, you get $12.80. $12.80 is your new price. Think about it. This would not be $3.20. You couldn't stop there. That's just the discount that you take off of the original price. Okay? You have to subtract that from the original price to get your new price. So subtract your markdown discount from original. Price. Okay. All right. This has been long. I'm sorry, but it was 2 lessons really in one. I know you guys can handle it. Just get those notes down, and then we'll talk about this tomorrow in class. Have a good night.